We recognize that the Hogan Administrative Center occupies the land of the Ho-Chunk people. Please take a moment to celebrate and honor this ancestral Ho-Chunk land and the sacred lands of all Indigenous peoples. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Ms. Bowman?
Here.
Ms. Bergdahl? Here. Dr. Garcia?
Here.
Mr. Jackson?
Here.
Dr. Jimenez?
Excused.
Mr. Neumeister?
Excused.
Mr. Corbett?
Here.
Dr. Schrag?
Here.
Ms. Siswa? Here.
A quorum of the Board of Education is present, so the regularly scheduled meeting of November 20th, 2023 is called to order. We will now have the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand and face the American flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
So tonight's agenda has previously been distributed to the board with a motion by Mr. Korberg and a second by Ms. Berkadal. We will vote to approve that agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, so for our showcase tonight, we have Jen Callis, our early childhood and 4K program coordinator. We're going to hear a little bit about our 4K program. We have Shelley Sherrill.
I'll kick us off real quick.
Cool.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for this opportunity for our 4K program to be spotlighted tonight. In my 4.5 years as director and supervisor of 4K, I believe this is the first time we've had an opportunity to come and just share some of the amazing things that are happening. Bringing with me tonight 4 wonderful individuals that it's where the magic happens, along with about 50 other educators in our district. But is this showing? Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay. All right. I do want to share just a little bit. 4K has been leading the way across the state for a long time. In 2000, Crosse started the 4K community approach to preschool programming, and they pioneered what we call a 3-model approach. I'll talk about that in just a minute. But this is now spread all across our state. They refer to it often as the lacrosse model. And so Deb is shaking her head, so she's familiar with this, your time on the board, with over 130 school districts that have utilized this approach over the past 23 years. Currently, we've got 15 sites, and we utilize a 2-model approach. So what we call as Model 1 is where our 4K program is housed in our elementary schools. And so the school district employs the licensed teacher, and our students attend, and it's a boundaryless program, so it's not necessarily that they go to their boundary school, but what works for their family. And then the other approach that we utilize is called the Model 3 approach, in which we partner with our community child care centers. And our lacrosse students, they're enrolled with us, but for any number of reasons, attend a community-based 4K program. And the community, the child care program, employs them, but we do a lot of work with them, and they partner with us beautifully. So that is one of the things that we want them to share with you tonight. But we continue, so 23 years ago, lacrosse led the way, and we continue to lead the way in a number of different ways. So right now, Jen is asked many times to speak to social emotional learning and our approach to that, our mobile classroom. Jen is also, and others have gone and presented on inclusive practices, and they're going to share some of that tonight. And then also just our ongoing strong community-based programs. So you're getting ready to hear from Jen Kalis. She is our amazing 4K coordinator who is also the president of Wisconsin Statewide Early Childhood Division. She's worked with DPI. If you read very many things that come out of DPI about 4K programming, you very well might see Jen's name on that. She's worked at CISA, and we are really fortunate to have her here in the school district of La Crosse supporting our teachers and leading our program. And then she will introduce the amazing teachers that are here with her.
Good evening. Thank you so much for having us. Every day is a good day to talk about little kids. So if you ever get a chance to grab me in the hallway, I will tell you everything and more that you'd like to know about them. But I'm so glad you get to see them in action, a couple of videos today too. But what we have really been committed to in La Crosse is having a 4K and early childhood program that sets a firm foundation for the rest of the programming and lifelong learning that our students in La Crosse have. So we take that very seriously, and we put a lot of thought into it. And I know sometimes preschool seems like an afterthought when you have all these big kid things to worry about, but truly we are setting that firm foundation, and I'm very proud to showcase some of those things. Just 3 things here I wanted to highlight about our program is that we teach standards through playful learning. You'll see that we have hands-on approach. We have a curriculum called the High Scope curriculum where kids are actively engaged in learning and making progress towards their academic skills. And we have an emphasis on social and emotional learning. Obviously, a big part in preschool is learning how to be a learner and be friends with others. And then what we're really proud of, especially the last few years, we've put a lot of emphasis on students of all abilities being educated together in our preschool programs. We firmly believe that if inclusive practices and equity is going to happen, if we do it at the youngest ages, we're going to be able to see how that builds upon that. And so I am just thrilled to introduce to you the first person who's going to be talking, which is Megan Vincent. She's one of our Model 3 teachers. We talked about she's at one of our off-sites, and you get to see some of what she does in action. So I will let her, oops, maybe I can pause that part and then we'll, okay, I'll let you talk for a second and then we'll get to that.
Thanks, Jen. Hello, everyone. I'm Megan Vinson. I'm the lead teacher at Cooley Children's Center. We are the Model 3, or one of the Model 3 4K programs. We have 18 students in our classroom, 14 boys and 4 girls, 3 students with individualized education plans. Along with me, I've been at Cooley Children's Center for 8 years, and I've been teaching the preschool program for 3 now. My teacher assistants are absolutely wonderful. I would say that what makes our program so magical is that we've been together for so long, and they have been a part of the program for so long as well. So Stacy Bremer, she's been there for 25 years at Cooley Children's Center, and she's been in our 4K program for 15 years. Jareen Beitlich, 20 plus years in EC education and 13 years in our preschool program. In fact, just a couple years ago, we celebrated 20 years of Miss Jareen being at Cooley Children's Center. I made sure to wear her shirt for all of you. But yeah, so we all bring something unique to the table. They've been in this for so many years that I really let them also do their magical things in the classroom, which you can see on the next slide.
When you grow up, what do you want to be?
I think
What do you want to be?
I like the Power Ranger.
That's what it says, a Power Ranger. How, like, do you go to school for that, or are you just going to be a Power Ranger?
Be a Power Ranger.
Sweet. When you're not at school, what is the thing you enjoy most? What do you like to do? When you're not here, what do you like to do at, like, your house?
Play with my toys.
Play with toys. That's what it says. Nice job, Gavin. All right, Gavin. Now, I'm going to ask the class if they have anything they want to ask you about your board or say about your board. And you can choose 3 friends. So if you have something you would like to ask or you would like to say, he might not choose you. And that's okay because you can talk to him later, right? All right, Gavin, who would you like to hear from? Who would you like to call on?
Jovi.
Jody, what would you like to say? Or do you have a question for Gavin?
I love pizza.
You love pizza too? You guys could totally have a pizza party. Yeah? Yeah, cool. He likes pizza too, Gav. All right, choose somebody else, Gavin. Ben or Evelyn or Owen? Who are you pointing at?
That guy.
Red coat? Red sweatshirt?
Yeah.
Red sweatshirt, Ben. His name is Ben.
Ben.
Ben, what would you like to say?
I like M&Ms too.
You could have a pizza and M&M party with Jovi and Ben. That would be crazy good times. All right, last one.
He took it to me.
Who? The kid in red or the kid in black?
Black.
Okay, that's Ezra.
Yeah, it was right.
So you can say Ezra.
Ezra.
Ezra,
I have some toys that I can share with you.
terrific.
So as you can see, Miss Stacy, Star of the Week has been her thing for years and years, and she absolutely loves doing it. Star of the Week is when we showcase a student every single week. They take these pages home to create their poster. They take them home and they work on them with their family, and then they bring them back and we showcase them on Monday, and their poster is up throughout the day. They get to sit in this beautiful Star of the Week rocking chair during morning meeting every single day. And they also lead us through the preschool pledge, which is preschoolers are kind, preschoolers are safe, preschoolers always try their best, and preschoolers are bucket fillers. Okay, is the sound working on this one? I don't think so. Okay. Well, this is another example of something awesome that we do in our classroom. During morning meeting, we always do the weather every single day. So we sing our weather song, but we also include American Sign Language, so the kiddos learn that. And this is a beautiful example of how they will do it on their own. This girl, she was our weather helper for the week. We have classroom jobs. And she went ahead and she did the American Sign Language all on her own as she was telling us the weather words for the day.
What do you think?
It's windy.
Windy. Sway for our windy. Professor
And real quick, that is also our student teacher from UWL who's been working with us.
over there.
It's
What else?
chilly.
We had to bundle up today, huh?
It's sunny.
Sunny. We got some sun out today. Didn't that sun feel nice? Felt the sun on your face outside today? You see the sun outside shining? It is sunny. We were lucky to get some sun
Such
today.
a cloud.
And it was at the end. All right.
That's the way.
Okay. So another wonderful thing that we do at our center is family fun nights. Jen, did you want to say anything about our
Just
family?
that in our program, some of you may know or you might not, but we have 87.5 hours that we do in all of our preschool programs a year as family outreach. You're just seeing a couple examples of that in action.
Yeah. So some favorites that we do at our center is ice cream social. That's at the end of the year, every single year. We have families who say that they think of this as a memory that they hold dear in their hearts forever, years from then. We also just had our fall fun night at the center, so you can see me. I was doing temporary tattoos, and that girl had just had her face painted by Miss Stacy. And Miss Doreen is over here as well. She was in charge of the apple cider that night. We also definitely do community outreach. So just recently, we had the fire department come and give us a tour of the fire truck. We had an I Spy game that we played. We were going to go to the pumpkin patch recently too, but that had to be canceled because of weather. But we always reach out to the community when we can. We had service dogs in our classroom last year, and that was a blast. And just real quick, I wanted to point out to you how we have families who stay with us forever and come back to us when they have more children. And we have siblings who come back. We have kiddos who start in our pre-K and then realize, wow, this place is amazing. I want my even younger kiddos to go here. And so then they continue with us up until preschool. And it's just really magical. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Awesome. That was a great example of what we call our Model 3, where we collaborate with our community partner. And then finally, we're just going to wrap it up with a really neat example of our Southern Bluffs team taught 4K. So you're going to have Stephanie Umberger, amazing 4K teacher, and Hannah Gaska, who's our early childhood teacher. And they're just going to show you a couple examples of how kids of all abilities really thrive in our preschool programs.
Good evening. I'm Stephanie Umberger, preschool teacher at Southern Bluffs.
And I'm Hannah Gaska. I'm the early childhood special education teacher at Southern Bluffs.
Much like Megan, our class also has 14 boys and 4 girls this year. The classroom consists of Hannah and I, but also our full-time TAs, Kim and Kristen. And we all 4 are in the room every day. Go ahead, I'm going to talk about services.
Sure. We have 5 students with IEPs with varying needs, goals, and minutes. And students receive all of their services in the classroom. So occupational therapies. Most of our students receive speech therapy in the classroom, physical therapy, early childhood services. Everything is in the classroom.
Okay. In general, we one of our big goals is to create a welcoming and safe environment for all students by providing hands-on experiences in a nurturing, play-based environment where children develop social skills and learn to be independent problem solvers. And so, a couple of examples of that: we have families send in pictures to be kept on our classroom wall, and then we also have a safe space in our classroom for children to go if they need an extra minute to calm down or to take a deep breath. We co-regulate with them in preschool, so there's always an adult with them over in that area. And then we display student work in our classroom too, so that they feel welcomed in that way too.
We also do something called SMART, so stimulating maturity through accelerated readiness training. So it's a variety of different exercises that help students get their bodies ready for learning. And it is really great for students with delays or IEPs, but it's also good for all kids. So it's embedded into our day. Every student in the classroom does it. So you can see some pictures of kids doing superhero to work on their trunk muscles, slap track, and popcorn.
Some of the universal supports that we have set up for children. During all projects, students have access to the visual order of tasks that they're needing to complete. There's a visual schedule hanging in the classroom as well for all students to reference as needed.
And then individual support. So all students have the opportunity to participate in all activities. As the teachers, we provide accommodations as we go to make sure that they are included in all activities. And here, these are just like a couple of the examples that we use. One student has visuals on his locker to help him remember what to do before he comes into the classroom. One student has a token board where they earn stars as they do tasks, the tasks that their peers are doing. Another student has an individual checklist, so he moves the picture down as he completes a task. So whatever the student needs is what we provide for them so that they are able to stay in the classroom and participate with their peers. Other accommodations that we do, all of us have visuals on our teacher badges that are available for all students. If a student needs an AAC device, individual visual schedules, or built-in breaks during tasks to make sure students can complete tasks.
Thank you so much for letting us showcase. We are an open door policy in all of our sites. Please come visit us sometime. And I'm not sure if you have any questions for us, but otherwise, thank you for your time. We appreciate you. Go ahead.
I've got a few comments and then I've got a question as well.
Yes.
So I was not on the board when 4K was created. I was on the committee that created 4K.
Oh, great.
Which was about one of the coolest things I've ever done in my career. I was a
that's so
director at the
neat.
Family Resource Center, now known as the Parenting Place.
Great.
And it was really pulled together because there was revenue to come to the district as a financial concern. But we didn't want to create a program that would benefit the district and then take away from childcare.
Right.
And so we worked, through a consensus model. We did not proceed on, and we talked about some tough issues about do parents make the right choices for the kids? How many transitions in a day is good for a kiddo? I mean, we were hearing about kids that were getting up in the morning with mom, going to grandma's, who was taking them to the babysitter, who then they got on the bus to go to Head Start. I mean, as adults, that's before 8 o'clock in the morning. Like, as adults, we couldn't function, much less as little children. So we wanted to improve that. We wanted to improve the opportunities for kids in school. But we also wanted to make sure that we help support childcare as well as the district and do what's good for 4-year-olds. And I'm so glad and I'm so excited to hear that how many other districts have picked up what's known as the lacrosse model.
Yes.
In fact, being on that committee, and I was asked by Associate Superintendent at the time, Jerry Kember, and Superintendent Tom Downs to be on that committee, and that's what got me involved to even consider being on school board. So that's kind of part of my road that got me here. And couple of quick things. Model 2, since you mentioned Model 1 and Model 3, Model 2 would be to have 4K as a partial day program, and then Model 2 would be to have wraparound daycare. And as anybody knows, daycare is difficult these days. They talk about daycare deserts nowadays, so that's been a real difficult model to implement, and so that's why for anybody in the public that's listening, and I want to make sure I point out Jane Morkin's here with us tonight, and she was one of our early coordinators of the program, and so I just want to recognize Jane's here.
Awesome.
So my question is, after we had created this, and I remember Cindy Erickson, who we hired through the Parenting Place or Family Resource Center, was one of the first coordinators too. They created a Model 4, which was to provide a curriculum for parents, so parents that didn't send their children to this program would still benefit from the same, their children could start kindergarten at the same level. Is that still going on, or is that what happened with that?
Yeah, I have seen remnants of it. It's in some binders that we still have here today. And so that curriculum, I know even with Mary that had retired last year from Northside, was one of the people that was trying to get that back up and going. I think when the Parenting Place took over some of that parent support in the community, maybe that was a little bit of why it wasn't pushed forward as much. So it's not an existing model right now, but it's great that we have the bones and the structure. If it's something that our community is interested in, we'd love to help resurrect that.
Yeah, because the beauty of the model was however parents wanted to have their children, if they wanted to send them to a school district building with their either alone or with siblings, if they were at daycare or if they were at home, the children could all benefit from this program. So that was
thanks for that reminder.
One of the beauties of that program. But again, just I'm so appreciate you bringing this forward. It's just such a wonderful program, and it's very cool to be on the cutting edge of something awesome. So.
Thank you, and thanks for all your work you've put into it to help it happen. We're really, really proud. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Beneficiary of some 4K services in the district with all 3 of my kids at some point at 2 different facilities. Thank you so much for everything that you guys do.
Oh,
my 4-year-old helped me co-regulate and showed me what volcano breathing is.
Yes, they're good at that
one
volcano breathing and the Tucker turtles. We have other 4K teachers in here that will say thank you. And we don't want your high schoolers. You can keep them. We'll do the little kids. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. All right. So we will move on to our public speakers section of our meeting. So it's the policy of the board to provide at its public meetings an opportunity for individuals to address the board. Comments about individual staff or personnel will not be allowed. Open meeting law prohibits the board from engaging in discussion or responding to matters not included on the agenda. All speakers are reminded that this same policy limits your time to speak to 5 minutes. This limit will be strictly enforced. May I ask the superintendent to keep track of the time and to notify the speaker when time is running out?
I will do so, and I have a 30-minute warning for when folks get to that point.
30 seconds.
30 seconds. We're not going to be here until midnight.
You are asked to give your name and the school district where you reside at the beginning of your time for the public record. So just a reminder, this is 5 minutes for each individual speaker. Our first speaker tonight is Melissa Zart.
My name is Melissa Zart. I'm a resident of La Crosse. My 4-year-old son attends Northwoods. I'm here to encourage the members of the school board to reject the FAC's suggestion of closing Northwoods. There are a number of reasons why I believe Northwoods should remain open. However, given the time constraints, I'm not even going to attempt to cover them all. Instead, I'm going to use my time to focus on a single topic: the positive impact that nature has on mental health and education. I understand that closing any school is a difficult decision and that a lot of people have very strong emotions and opinions about their schools. However, I think it's important that this decision be made based on facts and what is best for children. So here are a few facts that I would like you all to take into consideration while making this decision. According to the CDC, 1 in 6 students meet the criteria for a childhood mental health disorder, the most common being anxiety disorders. And feelings of persistent sadness and hopelessness increased by 40% in the years leading up to the pandemic. The Surgeon General has declared that we have a mental health crisis amongst young people. What if there is a way for us to combat this mental health crisis within our schools? Although it likely won't solve the problem entirely, allowing students increased access to nature might help reverse this trend, while also increasing academic performance. According to a 2019 study, children who had more access to nature were less likely to have psychological problems, including mood disorders and substance abuse. Additionally, researchers in Japan have found that a short walk through nature reduces anxiety and the stress hormone cortisol levels. According to the Mental Health Foundation, nature connectedness is associated with lower levels of poor mental health, particularly lower depression and anxiety. Providing students with increased access to nature could help turn around the current negative trends in mental health. Nature walks have also been shown to elevate mood, concentration, and short-term memory. In fact, in 2009, researchers found that the attention benefits of a 20-minute nature walk were, quote, roughly equal to the peak effects of 2 typical ADHD medications. Similar walks through urban settings were not shown to have the same positive effects. Nature has such an extraordinary effect on people that simply looking at nature can have a positive impact. A 2016 study in Illinois found that when students were given a 10-minute break with access to a green view rather than a man-made view, they saw increases in attention and working memory. These students were also able to recover from stressful situations at a faster rate than their counterparts. Taking students out into nature for an academic lesson can have immense impacts on learning as well. In a 2017 study, University of Illinois professor Ming Qiu found that student engagement was significantly higher following an outdoor lesson as opposed to an indoor lesson. Researchers determined this by noting the number of times that 3rd graders had to be redirected in a 20-minute period following a science lesson. After a typical indoor lesson, teachers were interrupted approximately once every 3.5 minutes, while following an outdoor lesson, redirections were only needed once every 6.5 minutes. Students also stated that they felt as though they had more autonomy and felt inspired to take charge of their own learning. So on top of the mental health benefits, allowing students more access to natural environments can improve their academic performance and motivation. Now, some people might not be aware of what the Northwoods campus looks like. Northwoods has by far the largest campus of any elementary school in the district at 10.9 acres, over 9 acres of which is outdoor space. In addition to a second playground, the backside of Northwoods contains a large green space surrounded on 3 sides by trees, as well as a trail that the kids can run around on. Clearly, this one needs to run around. There's even a story walk set up out back and a little creek that the kids can play in. Northwoods is in a unique position in that teachers can easily move their lessons into a natural environment on a whim. If students are particularly unruly that day, if the weather is just too beautiful to spend the day indoors, if a light bulb goes off and they suddenly think of a new way to explain a science lesson, teachers at Northwoods are able to line their students up and move to a beautiful, natural environment at a moment's notice. At no cost. No need for school buses, chaperones, or parental approval for a field trip. Studies have shown that giving students access to the natural environment that's available at Northwoods can increase attention span, working memory, and mental health, while also decreasing stress and anxiety.
30 seconds remaining.
Given all this information, why would we even consider taking this lovely green space away from our students? Closing Northwoods is not in the best interest of our students or our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, Willa. Our next speaker tonight is Ryan Schmidt.
Sorry, I'm tall. All right. Well, good evening, members of the school board, and thank you for your time tonight. My name is Ryan Schmidt. I am the school counselor and social worker at Hinchin Elementary School. I am also a parent of a third grader and sixth grader here in La Crosse. I've been a school counselor for 10 years, 6 of which have been at Hinchin Elementary. It has been and continues to be an honor to serve the students and families in our Hinchin community. I come here tonight to speak to the school board, not to convince you to close other schools, but rather to convince you of why Hinchin should remain open. This is in response to the most recent Facility Advisory Committee's recommendation to close Hinchin. I felt the call to advocate on behalf of our students and families so you, as well as the public, know what truly goes on inside the doors of our building. Now, I know data and facts speak volumes, and I'll get to that, but I first want to start by saying that Hinchin is a very, very special place for our staff, our families, our community, but most importantly, our students. I recognize the population of students in Hinchin has decreased over the last 5 to 10 years, as it has everywhere else as well. But have the needs of these students decreased? No. I could argue that the needs have increased in many different ways. In fact, just last week, students on the free and reduced lunch program at Hinchin climbed from 69% up to 74.8%. Now, I have the amazing privilege of working with every single student in Hinchin. I've gotten to know the families and been through some of the highest of highs and some of the lowest of lows that these students experience daily in life. I've seen students thrive in a learning environment where their talents and skills shine, where the excitement of personal growth and achievement are not just in a test score, but rather in the friendships they gain, the relationships they form, and the ability to show resilience through adversity by just having fun being a kid. However, I've also seen students struggle through parent separation, hard-fought depression, severe fear and anxiety, experiencing the loss of loved ones and friends while trying to cope through it, working through the unnecessary thoughts of why war exists and why people across the world hate each other because of how they look or the color of their skin. The list goes on and on. But through these things the kids go through, both good and not so good, there's always a constant, Hinchin. A place where no matter what kind of curveballs life throws at them, they show up. But why is that? Because they're told to, or it's the law? I firmly believe it's a lot more than just being told to come to school. At Hinchin, we have a 94.3% attendance rate. Kids want to be here. Part of what makes Hinchin a great place to be is the support systems we have in place. Hinchin has been named a model school among numerous district administrators for the way we support students through many different programs. Here are just a few. Our special education program is incredibly strong with a team of highly dedicated teachers and teacher assistants that go above and beyond to support staff and students while creating and maintaining trust with families. They are frequently shadowed and reached out to from other schools in the district. Our PBIS Tier 1 program, which supports students universally, and Tier 2, which supports students with targeted interventions, are constantly and consistently looked to across the district for guidance and leadership about what we're doing right so we can share with other schools. Our collaboration with La Crosse Area Family Collaborative and our Hinchin-Huber neighborhood has shown tremendous growth and trust among the school and neighborhood with partnership for after-school programming, family nights, assistance with basic needs at home, opportunities for parenting classes, decreased calls to law enforcement, and increased friendships and relationships in the neighborhood. In addition, Hinchin's board linkage documents showcase numerous areas where our school is leading the equity journey work through countless professional development opportunities supported by our principal. I want to be clear, this is not a jab or a slight to any other school, as I know they all have wonderful things happening as well. But this is a showcase of the hard work and dedication of our staff supporting and maintaining the programs that help our students be successful. It's working. The retention of our teachers, office staff, nutrition staff, custodial staff, teachers, assistants, and student services staff has proved that. And it's helped pave the path of trust with students and families, and in turn, created long-lasting positive relationships. Not to mention, we also have the most tenured administrator among all the elementary schools. I appreciate the FAC and the data they collected. Does the FAC have data to show why Hinchin should close? Sure, but it seems very one-sided. This may come across as emotional and passionate, and it should. Hinchin feels targeted. But facts are facts, and Hinchin has proved why it should stay open. Others will speak to this in the coming weeks from Hinchin. Let me end with a story. A few weeks ago, a fourth grade student came up to me and asked, "Mr. Schmidt, if Hinchin closes, what's going to happen to all my friends next year? I don't want to go to a
30
school
seconds remaining.
where I won't be with my friends." These kids don't deserve to have to navigate this at such a young age by worrying about their friendship groups being broken up. This team of incredible educators at Hinchin doesn't deserve to be broken up. This community of families, students, and staff doesn't deserve to be broken up. There are so many good things about Hinchin, and it's all because of dedicated staff, supportive families, and amazing children. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, our next speaker tonight is Adam Manka.
Good evening. My name is Adam Manka, and I'm a senior at La Crosse Central, and some of you might remember me, of course, from last month when I delivered the drug report to the board. Today I want to talk more about the standard-based grading today, and I'm going to be completely honest, it has made me very frustrated as a student, and it's made me consider why I've even considered implementing this. I want to tell you that we have is not working, and that there's a serious problem of communication that we need to consider in further decision-making. But what exactly is standard-based grading, and why should we care? Standard-based grading replaced our traditional letter grade system. So instead of having an A or a B in class, we'd have 4s, 3s, 2s, or 1s. While this is something often seen in elementary schools while children are developing, it is very controversial in high schools once students are beginning to prepare for college. This is because because we need a letter grade for college selection, and we need to have a transparent GPA. As of now, it is hard to get either. Instead of having a grade shown us at all times, we are given a number. 4s are hypothetically meant to be an A+, 3s are an A or a B, 2s are an B or a C, and 1 is a D or a lower. While this sounds good in theory, we are told in some classes that we will never get a 4. And what does it really mean when we get a 3? Do I have an A or a B? If I get a 2, what does it really mean? Where am I at, and what do I need to work on in order to improve myself? These are some of the concerns I've had with standard-based grading. But in tackling this issue, I want to be as fair as possible, so I asked the teachers how they felt. I asked questions going from a scale from 1 to 5, 1 being the worst and 5 being the best. I asked many departments in as much time as I could get, and I managed to get a sample size of 15 in 1 hour. And this is what they've said. So, for question number 1, on a scale of 1 to 5, how easy has the transition to standard-based grading been? I got an average of 1.86. The transition to standard-based grading has not been easy at all for teachers. Some of the comments I've gotten, I've quote, "We are moving too quickly towards standard-based gradings. Teachers are really," and they put this in all caps, "really frustrated," end quote. Teachers were thrown into this without clear messaging from the district, and it has been clear as a student that the district has struggled providing resources to teachers who have to use the system. Another comment, I quote, "I think the goal of standard-based grading is good, but the implementation has been lacking," end quote. Question number 2, on a scale of 1 to 5, how has standard-based grading made your job as a teacher easier? On average, teachers say this has made their job much harder, with a rating of 1.73 out of 5. Instead of assigning grades based on points, standard-based grading has burdened teachers with having to assign grades themselves. They have to decide the difference between an A or a B, and at the end of the quarter, they have to post these grades at what they feel a student is at. This is very unfair to them, and it's very subjective, despite what I've been told in the past by administration. Quote, "It is the subjectiveness that kills. It inconveniences teachers and students by lacking clarity," end quote. My third question I asked them, on a scale of 1 to 5, how well do you feel the standard-based grading has impacted students giving effort in classroom activity and work? On average, teachers say that students give less effort in class, a rating of 2.26 out of 5. One teacher said, and I quote, "Students are very negatively lacking in giving effort in classroom activities." Another quote, "Some students have said they don't need to do work because everyone will pass," end quote. "We no longer grade homework, despite studies finding that homework is a big learning indicator for students in mastering a subject. It teaches them the subject before the big test. Students don't take much effort because they don't need to. They're not being graded in their success, and it shows." Question number 4. How has communication with administration been in regards to teachers' concerns throughout the year? On average, teachers say the response to school administration to their communication concern was fair, with 2.93 out of 5. However, I received many comments regarding this one. Teachers were mostly positive about the school administration, but were very unfavorable towards the district administration. This survey shows that teachers are having a hard, perhaps difficult time implementing the standard-based grading system. These teachers confirm that the students are putting forth less effort in their classes, which is the exact opposite of what was intended. This means that students are learning less. Can that learning loss ever be recaptured? Mine and the comments of other students show that the new system has created more frustration for students who are less informed about their academic progress, which is also the opposite of what was intended. It appears that a teacher's subjective assessment of a student's effort causes confusion for the student because it is unpredictable and doesn't fall in an unbiased metric. Finally, for our last question, only 40% of teachers surveyed support the implementation of standard-based grading. 47% did not approve, and the remaining 13% were unsure. This is struggling to gain support among our teachers.
30 seconds remaining.
We have made the teachers' jobs even harder, and parents and students are getting more frustration. In conclusion, I implore the school board to reconsider their policy on standard-based grading and to not reinvent the wheel. Don't create something that doesn't need to be made, because it hurts more than it creates. Thank you. God bless you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker tonight is Katie Pierre.
Good evening. My name is Katie Pierre. I am the Behavior Success Coach and a parent at Northwoods International. I reside in the school district of Holman, from which 2 of my daughters are open enrolled, so we get the privilege to drive to school every day together. I am well aware that many caregivers, retirees, and other allies of Northwoods are speaking to you both here or via email about a range of important factors about our school, including the optimal learning spaces, distinguished IB program, and low operating and maintenance costs. So rather, I'm here to dispute the narrative of late that our school cannot be a connected community because of its location. Because for my family, and many families like mine, this decision feels personal. So maybe some personal anecdotes are needed to accompany all the facts and figures. In August of 2017, I waddled through the doors of Northwoods for my first professional development days with the district. I was 8 months pregnant with my now kindergartner. Every person I met over those first few days were so kind and helpful and delighted to help me get settled very quickly, as I was on a bit of a time crunch. Despite not knowing me, the staff at Northwood showered me with support in my first 3 weeks on the job, and they haven't stopped since. I knew very early on that the connections I was making at Northwoods would be long-standing. Fast forward to December of 2020, when I was virtually teaching 4th and 5th grade, and our eldest was attending virtual kindergarten. Our teachers, like many others, worked tirelessly over the first semester to create a community amongst our students who couldn't physically be in the same space. My daughter's teacher made it seem effortless, but the day that impressed me most was when she invited families to join their Friday Tudita tradition. If you don't know what Tudita is, I'm sure Senora Hooper would be happy to extend an invitation to come be their guest. That particular Friday, my 5-year-old watched in wonder and excitement as 12 of her family members from across the country hopped onto Zoom, put their elbows back, knees together, butts out, and spun around. On that day, her home and school communities from both near and far were brought together and connected with one another to create a core memory she still talks about today. Let's jump ahead again to last spring, when my husband, a social worker for the district, was encouraging me to switch buildings in order to preserve my mental health. After facing challenges with the leadership in our community, I felt disheartened and exhausted because it seemed our concerns were not being adequately addressed. When I broached the possibility of switching schools to my daughter, she cried for 2 hours straight. When she was finally ready to talk, her reasons for not wanting to leave Northwoods included having friends from varied backgrounds, having many friends and classmates that look like her, the teachers who know and love her across the building, learning Spanish, and being able to discover varied perspectives from around the world. So we stayed. We stayed with our community because we both knew that our community would persevere. And I'm so glad we did, because now, as 3 of us walk through the doors this school year into the bright building with spacious hallways, massive playgrounds, well-designed classrooms, and beautifully decorated walls filled with our community members, we feel grateful it's ours. Our new leadership has brought a renewed sense of positivity and purpose. Our staff is outrageously dedicated to our diverse student population and their caregivers. Our students are learning how to be globally minded citizens and action-oriented problem solvers. Our community is thriving once again. Yes, we drive 6.2 miles both ways every day, but boy, this community is worth it.
Our next speaker, and I hope that I say your last name right. If I don't, please correct me because I am notoriously bad at this. Ashley Jocumsen?
Jocumsen.
Jocumsen, thank you.
Hello, my name is Ashley Jocumsen, she, her pronouns, La Crosse School District. There are 7 of us parents here tonight from Northwoods International Elementary School. We are discussing the 7-parameter framework on which the FAC has based their recommendations to you all. Our goal is to provide evidence and anecdotal information that supports keeping Northwoods International open. I'm discussing parameter 1, collaborative alignment with various community resources. Let's start with some examples of how Northwoods International has relationships with community partners. We have an easily accessible large group instruction or LGI space, equipped with a small stage and technology, which is often used for family events, inviting authors for reading events, parent meetings, and a variety of other family and school-based activities. This space is also used by the Condo Association for monthly meetings, UW La Crosse collaborations, and Cub and Girl Scout meetings. We partner with the Russian Chess Club, UWL, Gunderson Health System, the Hmong Cultural and Community Agency, and welcome interns from Viterbo, UWL, Winona State, and Logan High for Spanish language support and field trips. La Crosse Parks and Recreation uses our gym and outdoor field for various youth sports and community adult volleyball leagues. Elementary schools Spence, Southern Bluffs, and Northwoods have a yearly folk dance residency and a family folk dance night that is open to the public. Next, Northwoods International honors our veterans in distinctive ways. Our Veterans Day celebration is open to the public. Many families attend, including residents from nursing homes. We are the only elementary school that participates in sending off veterans for honor flight almost every year since 2008. Each year, UWL has a Veterans Day breakfast, and we are the only elementary school that is invited to sing along with UWL's wind ensemble. Next, Northwoods International believes in connecting generations, cultures, and encourages lifelong learning. We are the only school that has a spring concert global arts night, which also includes physical education and an art show, featuring pieces from all over the world. We also participate in foster grandparents program through Workforce Connections. Our Grandma Karen volunteers time at our school, closing the gap between young and old. Our school has various volunteers, grandparents, parents, university students, high school students, news leaders, government officials, athletes, and United Way, who read with our children for Read to Success, Read for the Record Day, Read Across America Day, Hero Reading, lots of reading, and additionally focus on promoting social emotional development. These reading programs and partnerships are vital to our children's minds and confidence. They also enhance global awareness. The volunteers are role models to our students, showing them how reading is fun and interesting. Volunteers also gain a sense of purpose and belonging and provide valuable knowledge to our school. Next, Northwoods International invests in STEM, an essential part of all of our futures. STEM on Wheels is a year-round program at our school and the Shoe Homes, offered to K through 5th grade, involving students from Northwoods, Summit, several Northside families, and Logan Middle School. Materials are funded by the La Crosse Educational Foundation and additional grants. The students use STEM-infused activities involving some of the latest coding programming languages. Some of the Shoe Home students have become coding mentors to their peers and are invited to help with coding lessons at the library. For some, this has been a game changer in their approach to school. Finally, a couple of examples of how Northwoods partnerships are noticed by other schools. Our current foster grandparent, Grandma Karen, followed our librarian to Summit for summer school for the last 2 years. Summit's principal saw how effective it was to have her there working with students. Now our Grandma Karen is also going to Summit on a weekly basis. Word of mouth has also spread about the STEM Club, work at Northwoods and Shoe Homes, and our teacher facilitating the program was invited to Northside Elementary After School Club for their growth. With the programming at Northwoods International, the diverse community partnerships, and the international focus of learning, our students come home singing in different languages, dancing in unique ways, and sharing knowledge about various traditions from all over the world. We parents guide them, and they also are teaching us. Not only this, but our children's daily learning, I'm waiting for this,
30 seconds.
is infused with IB attributes. So our children's daily learning is infused with IB attributes. This baseline is necessary as a community member in La Crosse and a global citizen. The type of education happening at our school and in an accessible, well-designed building should be considered as a model to keep and replicate for other schools. Northwoods International should be marketed by the La Crosse School Board and the school district to draw students and families back to our district and from neighboring areas. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next speaker tonight is Christy Fisher.
Hi, my name is Christy Fisher, and I reside in the La Crosse School District, and I am the parent of 3 children at Northwoods International Elementary School. I will be talking to you about the physical site and facility considerations parameter that was highlighted to the FAC based on school board policies. When we look at our current elementary schools in La Crosse, Northwoods is a clear, positive beacon in our community. Northwoods, being a newer school, has many positive factors that cannot be ignored. According to the Potential Decisions Parameters document, Northwoods is the most efficient school to maintain and has the longest future lifespan. Northwoods also best meets modern building standards, which are clear positives for the school district when we are looking at the future as a whole of the La Crosse community, the school board budget, and taxpayer dollars. If you take a look inside Northwoods International, you will notice many things that enhance education and the quality of life for the students and faculty. You will notice that Northwoods has modern and spacious facilities for music and art. There is a sizable library, a garden, and a large outdoor space for kids to run around and explore that also doubles as an outdoor classroom. Kids at Northwoods are able to have a unique experience with such an expansive outdoor area that adds movement, nature, and a hands-on approach to learning. The kids also have a unique opportunity to have lessons at our Grow Garden, where they not only learn about how to grow their own food, they also get to taste new recipes that are made with the very things they got to help grow. Per Policy 9100, Innovation and Best Practices for Teaching and Learning lists several items to be considered when addressing school facility needs. Per Item B, Northwoods, being one of the newest schools in the city, makes it very flexible and adaptable to changes in technology and educational trends. And per Item D, the International Baccalaureate Program is an excellent program unique to Northwoods that encourages critical thinking. The IB program focuses on making children inquirers that are active participants in their learning and make them lifelong learners, which is only enhanced by the unique facilities at Northwoods highlighted above. Under Section 2, Diverse Learning Needs, you will see many ways in which Northwoods excels in accomplishing these goals. Per Item C, the IB program does an excellent job at preparing students to be an asset to their community. The IB mission states, the International Baccalaureate aims to develop inquiring, knowledgeable, and caring young people who help to create a better and more peaceful world through intercultural understanding and respect. What an absolutely incredible goal that this program accomplishes and is uniquely equipped to accomplish through the Northwoods facility and faculty. Per Item G, the green space and ample classroom space at Northwoods, not to mention being such a newer and modern building, does a great job at accomplishing the goal to provide effective space for the social, emotional, and behavioral needs of students. Under the section Collaborative Alignment with Community Resources, we see more ways in which Northwoods supports and meets these criteria. Northwoods joins in various needs around the community, such as collecting food for wafer, offering food to students and families in need, and this year has been able to provide every student with free breakfast and lunch. This shows how they are responsive to periodic community needs per item E. And I've already shared how one of IB's main goals is to create lifelong learners, which is identified in item F. I'd also like to touch on building and site design standards. Per item A, Northwoods has been highlighted as providing safe, secure, healthy, and accessible buildings and grounds, which other locations have not. The entrances to the building are secure and all visitors are filtered in through the office. Playgrounds are also secure and private, which is not the case for all locations. Northwoods is one of only 3 elementary schools with a separate bus lane. Per the facility evaluation study from March 2021, Northwoods also meets ADA accessibility requirements. 2 elementary schools fail to meet many ADA accessibility requirements in their schools, neither of which are being recommended for closure. I would hope the school district of La Crosse would take these needs seriously and when considering the future of La Crosse schools and the needs of all students. Per item B, I, and K, Northwoods also succeeds at providing adequate indoor and outdoor space for its students, adequate parking, and it has the longest possible lifespan. Lastly, per policy 9800 retirement of facilities, under section 2, item B, I would argue the impact of potentially losing the Northwoods IB program would be too great of a risk on the quality of instructional programs that our La Crosse schools have to offer. Simply moving the program is not actually simple and should be fully investigated and considered in this decision process.
30 seconds remaining.
Section 3, item A addresses the physical site and facility considerations. The 2022-2023 Capital Maintenance and Improvements Report identified Northwoods as having the second lowest projected costs. The needs at Northwoods are minor and not costly. The same cannot be said for every school. Per item C, the size should also be viewed as an extreme positive. The students at Northwoods have a unique environment for their learning experience. While all elementary schools have great things to offer and many great teachers and good learning opportunities, I don't think it's a stretch to say that Northwoods offers a learning environment that is not easily found elsewhere. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Our next speaker tonight is Greg Smith.
Good evening. I am Greg Smith, a parent and concerned citizen of the Crosse School District. It's my understanding that due to the declining enrollment, budget deficit, and aging buildings, there's a desire to consolidate schools. My goal tonight is to highlight data provided by the district to help the school board make the best financial decision. Over the past several months, you have heard many emotional stories from public regarding the idea of school consolidation. While these are heartfelt and compelling, it is important to remove emotions in order to make the right decision. I would encourage the board to use caution when evaluating the FAC report. Whether it was intentional or not, the overall tone appears biased in the selection and display of the data. The 7 guiding parameters for the FAC are a combination from the district's policies and a community survey. The survey was broken down into several categories, all for good reason. However, it is worth noting that the financial questions were broken into 3 categories, which lowers their overall score. If you combine these categories, the survey would rank cost in the top 5 factors most important to the community. Appendix B and D of the FAC report clearly shows the 2 oldest schools, Emerson and Spence, have the most maintenance needs, estimated at $6.3 million combined. In comparison, Northwoods and Hinchin are at $1.6 million. This fact is extremely important to remember when looking at any of the financial tables in the FAC report, as not all of them include them. The budget book from November 9th has our actual busing cost last year at $3.5 million. Our budget this year is at $4 million and is 3.7% of our overall budget. The FAQ document reported that if Emerson were to close, it would add 3 additional bus routes worth approximately $210,000. If this happened, it would raise our busing budget 0.2%. Busing costs do not move the needle. In the FAQ document, there was analysis of long-term busing costs against deferred maintenance. The accuracy of trying to forecast busing costs 20 years out is unrealistic. This is easily seen in our yearly budgets. Policy 9100, facility development, lists 5 main topics that must be contemplated when addressing school facility needs. I would encourage the board to focus on number 4, building and site design standards, and number 5, financial considerations. Some of these are summarized in Appendix D in the FAC report, but there are too many deficiencies to list them all. Examples of these are incorporation of renewable energies and being ADA compliant. When comparing the 20 sub-guidelines to the facilities evaluation study, I would challenge that our older schools cannot meet the majority of this criteria without a tremendous expense. The the facilities evaluation study lists numerous repairs. However, it is unclear if all those costs are included in the capital maintenance book. For example, the evaluation study lists several schools, including Emerson and Spence, potentially having asbestos floors. Asbestos abatement was not called out in any budget documents. I would strongly encourage the board to investigate if our estimated budget includes all of the suggested repairs or just a portion of them. I would also suggest that a contingency and escalation budget be considered while making this comparison. Costs will only increase as repairs are delayed. Appendix F in the FAC report provides several comments from FAC committee members. Some of these create serious doubt on how they made their recommendation. One paraphrased example from page 76 is, "Personally, I think closing Northwoods makes the most sense, but that is based on my personal values." The author goes on to say, "Yes, Emerson is outdated and in serious need of repair. The only way I would support a closure of Emerson is if it was temporarily tore down and the building was rebuilt. There are many more very similar to this. If we are truly in a financial trouble, we must make our decisions based off of needs, not wants." One of my clients' favorite sayings is, "My perception is your reality." The community's opinion of the district is becoming unstable. If we need to save money and yet choose to close the newer schools with the least maintenance cost, declining enrollment will only escalate as families will leave.
30 seconds remaining.
Trust is wavering, but we can repair this by making good, sound financial decisions. Thank you for your time.
Our next speaker tonight is Dan Sutton.
Hi, I appreciate that you have a busy agenda tonight and greatly appreciate you for your time and commitment to the La Crosse schools and education of our students. My name is Dan Sutton. I have 2 students who attend Northwoods International. I want to preface this by saying I do not want any school to have to close, and I am not trying to make a plea to close a different school. I actually would be most happy if some solution were derived that no school needs to close. With the potential for you to have to make a gut-wrenching decision of what school to close, we are hoping that you will be basing this off the most accurate and objective evidence and facts possible. You have received the final recommendation from the Facilities Advisory Committee. They indicated that their recommendations were based on 7 parameters, and I would like to speak to parameter 4, general enrollment projections and reassignment impacts. Regarding general enrollment projections, it seems that concerns are related to class/school size and anticipated continued decline in enrollment. Data from the school district show that 10% of the students at Northwoods International elect to open enroll here, the highest of any non-charter school in the district. While there has been some portrayal of Northwoods International as a remote location accessible only by an arduous bus ride, this statistic is remarkable. The intentional enrollment of one's child to a school further away than other options speaks volumes to the unique environment and opportunities at Northwoods International. Given the data demonstrating declining enrollments in the La Crosse School District, it would seem imperative that we keep open schools like Northwoods International that could draw students from the nearby communities like Holman that are growing actively and help bolster the student population of the La Crosse School District. Next, I'd like to speak to concerns about classroom size. There was a study done in Tennessee in 1985 titled Project STAR and is still considered one of the landmark studies in ideal classroom size. The state of Tennessee committed $12 million to this study and it involved grades K through 3. It was carried out in rural, urban, suburban, and inner city schools. It included 79 different schools with more than 6,000 students per grade. Students and teachers were randomly assigned to either small classes of 13 to 17 students or regular classes of 22 to 26 students. Throughout elementary school, kids from the small classes performed statistically significantly better in reading and math standardized tests. The Health and Education Research Operative Services, HEROES, Inc., followed up on this study in 1997, 12 years later, and saw that kids in high school from the smaller classes were more likely to be in advanced classes, more likely to be top 10% of their graduating class, more likely to graduate high school, and less likely to drop out. Furthermore, Alan Krieger, a professor of economics at Princeton University, later analyzed data from STAR to look at college outcomes and found that kids from the smaller K-3 classes were more likely to take ACTs and SATs, thus preparing to go to college, and that the difference seen in this was most distinct in minority students. Dr. Krieger found that the small classes closed the black-white ACT-SAT testing gap by 54%. In addition to this impressive data from STAR, Dr. Charlotte Roberts, assistant professor in the Department of Education at UWL, has shared studies showing that an ideal classroom size is approximately 18 students. These data would suggest that the current state of smaller classes in schools might actually be most advantageous for our learners. Regarding reassignment impacts, this is obviously a potentially emotional issue. It seems tragic that we are finally starting to regain some degree of normalcy after the pandemic, that we'd possibly now ask a student to reassign to a new school and have to learn another new routine, new building, new teachers, and develop new friends. There would be other impacts specific to the students of Northwoods International. There is a proposal to move the IB program to Northside Elementary. Putting aside that this will actually be quite a lot more involved than portrayed, and maybe not even possible, the students currently on the south side of the Northwoods Elementary boundary would now be sent to Emerson, thus robbing these students of access to the IB program. A final note on reassignment impacts, particularly as it relates to school district enrollment. An email survey was sent in October 2023 to the families of Northwoods International. It was responded to by 43 families. If Northwoods International were to close, 60% of the respondents noted they would enroll their kids in either private school or another school district, and another 23% indicated they would enroll in another public school aside from the proposed new boundary school. This could have significant implications for the enrollment and finances of our school district. Overall, I hope you found this informative and that when decisions need to be made, that you are able to hopefully come up with a solution that no school will be closed, and certainly not the amazing institution of Northwoods International. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker tonight is Tina Pike.
Hi, my name is Tina Pike, and I am a parent in the La Crosse School District, and I live in the neighborhood near Northwoods International. I'm discussing parameter number 5, neighborhood accessible schools based on the community survey results. Comments from several FAC members at the end of the final report use the words neighborhood school and community school interchangeably and cite this as a compelling reason to close Northwoods. But neighborhood and community should not be confused as substitutes for each other. When neighborhood refers to a geographical location and community refers to a group of people linked by some commonality. The frequently asked questions section on the FAC website defined clear distinctions between neighborhood and community schools, saying a neighborhood school is a school that serves a particular neighborhood, and transfers in and out of schools are generally not allowed, while community schools are an intentional equity strategy intended to help those schools and the communities who need it the most. In fact, the School District of La Crosse has a community school initiative as part of its growing equity strategy, and not a neighborhood school initiative. This begs the question, why was so much weight placed on the neighborhood accessible schools by the FAC in their decision? Neighborhood schools do not align with the equity strategy. I'll point out 2 investigations that outline equity issues with neighborhood schools. In 2014, PBS Frontline produced a documentary and article regarding the controversy surrounding neighborhood schools. The article quotes Warren Simmons, who was the executive director of the Annenberg Institute for School Reform at Brown University, saying, quote, "The impulse to want a neighborhood school for your children is understandable, but because schools in upper, middle-class white neighborhoods are often better performing than ones in poor African American and Latino neighborhoods, when you promote them, you are essentially promoting inequality," end quote. The article continues to say, quote, "Here's the uncomfortable reality surrounding today's neighborhood school movement. More often than not, these schools are racially and economically segregated, and the parents who relish them are largely the middle class and the rich," end quote. In 2017, a study called Balancing Act, Schools, Neighborhood, and Racial Imbalance by the Brookings Institute stated the following point in the conclusions of their 51-page report. Quote, "Schools tend to look like their neighborhoods. This means that attempts to integrate schools are likely to require active efforts to buck trends of neighborhood and residential racial segregation," end quote. These investigations point to deeper problems related to the concept of neighborhood schools that don't reflect the value of equitable outcomes that the district is striving toward. Yes, Northwoods is at the edge of city limits, but that was an intentional decision when the school was built in 1992 due to the very real geographical limitations of La Crosse, like the bluffs and the river, and also the population estimates that were provided at that time. However, Northwoods' physical location does not preclude it from invoking, fostering, and providing a genuine community. Examining the data from 2021 to 2022, Northwoods was used outside of school hours for community purposes for 2,621 hours. This is more hours than State Road and Summit combined. It is more than Southern Bluffs and Hamilton combined. And quite significantly, Northwoods has the most park and rec hours than any other school in the entire district, including the middle and high schools. The mission for the Community School Initiative, as stated on the district's website, says, partnering with students, families, and communities to achieve equitable outcomes by leveraging the school as a hub for engagement, collaboration, and expanded services and opportunities. Two of the guiding principles for community schools listed on your website are pursue equity and build on community strengths to ensure conditions for learning. Many of the comments in the FAC report focused on neighborhood when making the recommendation to close Northwoods. Please don't limit us to the conflated physical boundaries of a neighborhood when pursuing the important mission on building a community of educators, learners, and the people that care about them when making this extremely difficult decision.
30 seconds remaining.
Thank you for your consideration and for your time tonight.
Our next speaker is Heather Owens. Heather Owens is our next speaker.
Hello everyone, my name is Heather Owens and I live in the school district of La Crosse. I have a daughter that attends Northwoods and I am here to talk to you about parameter number 7, which is socioeconomic diversity. Socioeconomic diversity refers to the diversity in people's educational backgrounds and financial status. Tonight, I would like to represent families and students from the perspective of socioeconomic disadvantage. This group of people has received little attention at these meetings, and their concerns are valid. Northwoods has 55% of its students in a position of economic disadvantage. In a definition pulled from the European Institute for Gender Equality, this is a group of persons that experience a higher risk of poverty, social exclusion, discrimination, and violence than the general population, including but are not limited to ethnic minorities, migrants, people with disabilities, isolated elderly people, and children. This includes my child, who is of mixed race, developmentally disabled, and receives Badger care. A person's socioeconomic status in childhood can carry into adulthood and can play a significant role in their overall well-being. Low socioeconomic status and exposure to adversity are linked to decreased educational success. Children in impoverished settings are much more likely to be absent from school throughout their educational experience, further increasing the learning gap between them and their peers. Upon speaking with residents of the Shoe and Mullen homes, one of our Northwoods advocates shared some feedback with me. Concern was expressed regarding sending children to a predominantly white, middle-class school where they could feel insecure and marginalized. This apprehension could hinder the learning progress we have been trying to get back since before the pandemic shut down our schools. On page 7 of the final FAC recommendation report, it states that the FAC used an intentional and progressive process to explore options to make recommendations regarding school closure and consolidation. The La Crosse Housing Authority has 4 public housing communities for low-income families in the city. The Mullen and Shoe homes lie within the district boundary for Northwoods. The Huber homes lie within the district boundary for Hinchin. The 2 schools that the FAC has recommended for closure are both Title I schools, and this will directly affect some of the most vulnerable children in our community. For some of these children, the greatest sense of stability that they experience may come from their friends, teachers, and the support staff in their current schools. Uprooting these children from a familiar environment and people that they trust could result in several personal setbacks. In the La Crosse Staff, Parent, and Community Survey report dated June of 2023, socioeconomic diversity averaged at number 6 in level of importance out of 19 factors that were most essential for planning elementary school reconfiguration. To my surprise, it also ranked higher than every mention of building maintenance costs. Appendix F of the final FAC recommendation report contains 28 comments from the FAC members regarding their schools for school closure and consolidation. Of these comments, only 3 of them contained socioeconomic diversity. Another interesting thing to note about this survey is who submitted their responses. Of the 2,052 people who answered this survey, 89% of these people identified as white. It was also asked which schools the participants' children attended, and none of the top 3 respondents had children in elementary school. In Administrative Policies Document 9100, Facilities Development, the following will be considered when addressing school facility needs. Under Diverse Learning Needs, sub-bullet A is meets appropriate facility standards for students with special needs. My daughter has cerebral palsy. In the facility evaluation study published in March of 2021, it shows there are elementary schools in our district that are not compliant with the Americans with Disabilities Act, including the one that could be my child's new boundary school if Northwoods were to close.
30 seconds remaining.
Disability justice needs to be present where my child will be going to school. This is a dignity and self-determination issue that needs to be corrected. Title I schools with some of our most socioeconomically disadvantaged children should not be closing their doors. Pandemic school closures hit this demographic the hardest, and we should not expect these children to shoulder any more burden than they already have.
Okay, our last speaker tonight is Danielle Demmel.
Nothing like going last with traffic safety.
We've got it.
Hello, my name is Danielle Demmel, and I reside in the school district of La Crosse. I have family who teach at Spence, neighbors who work at Hinchton, friends whom children I treat as my own that attend Emerson, and I choose to choice enroll my kids at Northwoods International. Because so many I care about are scattered throughout the various schools, I am invested in this district as a whole. I stand before you tonight to discuss the 6th parameter of safe vehicle traffic flow from the spring 2023 survey the FAC committee identified as one of their guiding criteria to close 2 schools. In the final FAC report, it was suggested that Northwoods has challenges with drop-off and pickup for parents, given the high number of parents who transport their own children. Northwoods is one of our district's choice schools. It has the 2nd most students who are choice enrolled from within the district, and it has the most students who open enroll from neighboring districts. These children are not eligible for district transportation, so it should be obvious that there will be a higher number of caregivers driving their children to Northwoods compared to other buildings. For a district that is worried about declining enrollment, it is confusing to highlight a concern that is bringing in more students into a particular school and our district. I invite the board to come and observe our drop-off and pickup procedures. If you choose to do so, you will notice something that visitors often comment on, and that Northwoods is very easy to access as it is just one turn off of Highway 16. The speed limit on County B was recently changed to 25 miles an hour, and there is a crosswalk with a flashing light for pedestrians to cross the road safely. Upon arriving at Northwoods, you will notice adequate parking with ADA-approved spaces. With the exception of an all-school community event, there is rarely a need to park on the street. Northwoods previously identified the need for a separate bus lane and was able to accommodate this need due to the fact that it had the extra space. Much like it found the need to create a separate playground for younger children and those with disabilities, Northwoods has the physical space to adapt for student and family safety. It is one of only 3 schools in the district that has a segregated bus lane. The schools without this safety feature are at risk for an accident, with children having to walk in between buses to get to their personal vehicles. There is a large, clearly marked area for children to line up with adequate staff supervision. While buses are coming and going, caregivers who are picking up their children have two choices. They can enter into the natural flow of traffic that winds through the parking lot and not into the street, or some prefer to park on Sablewood Road, which is a quiet street free from the congestion of parked cars and traffic. If you visit during pickup time, you will see a gathering of our community members waiting under shady trees, conversing, and catching up while they wait to collect their children for the day in their designated pickup spot. Per the FAC documents, the savings and costs of busing are relatively low. To close a school because it offers safe bus routes is bewildering to me. Riding a school bus provides student safety, reduces tardiness, allows children to socialize, reduces traffic, and creates socioeconomic balance. Furthermore, school buses are trackable, which is a big perk for us parents. District leaders continue to use location as the strongest argument to close Northwoods. However, caregivers have repeatedly told the district that distance and proximity do not impact their sense of community. In fact, families describe feeling more connected because they are part of a community that shares values and beliefs and one that chooses to be together. In conclusion, I want to bring you back to the 7 parameters that have been discussed here tonight. We have stood before you to champion Northwoods International in each parameter. I urge you to take a step back, pause, and look beyond the immediate challenges and envision the district's legacy we leave for our children, their education, and overall well-being. The physical space at Northwoods, both in and outdoor, is the envy of educators, child development experts. Northwoods embodies diversity, inclusivity, and excellence in education. The loss of such an environment is a loss for the La Crosse School District's future and a tremendous resource taken from our children and community. Thank you, and happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. So we will move on with the rest of our regularly scheduled meeting. For folks in the audience who have other plans tonight, feel free to leave, but you are welcome to stay while we work through our business. So the consent agenda is a mechanism used by the board to deal with routine business that must come before the body. Are there any items that the members of the board want to remove from the superintendent's consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the items on the superintendent's consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right.
I think there's an item missing under resignations and termination. Associate Superintendent.
That's not listed yet.
All right.
Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah.
But it's been announced, so I expected to see it on here.
Yes, it did make this agenda. It will be on a future one, for
Thank
sure.
you.
Absolutely.
Not that I'm happy about it, not that I want it to happen.
Yes.
We have a motion by Mr. Forberg. Was that you? Yeah. And a second by Dr. Sprague. We will approve the consent agenda as presented. Moving on to the board's consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the items on the board consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay. Are there any items that board members want to remove from the board consent agenda?
I'd like to remove the linkage notes for both elementary and Logan.
Remove them to?
Discuss rather than just approve.
We can. Do we need to have a full board vote to remove those, or if one wants to pull them out? Do you know, Ms. Steigerwald?
We could just remove it, and then you can approve the items
Okay.
as
Think
presented without that item, and then we can move that for a separate action item.
Because it's been a consent agenda, we typically removed it at the request of a single board member.
Okay, cool. So let's first approve the one item that was not removed. And we had The motion by Mr. Corbrick again. Was the second by Katie? Ms. Birkenau? Okay. So approve that one. Ms. Sukla, the two that you wanted to pull out and comment on.
Sure. So the reason I brought them forward is that there was such important information at both of them, and I'm hoping to attend many of these linkages. And as a person who's been on the board in the past for a long period of time, I'm hearing a very different message from staff, and that's why I think it's important to bring forward, and particularly the Logan High School staff, although I think the elementary staff said it perhaps a little bit more delicately. But there is great concern. I mean, the notes, you all got notes in your mailbox from the Logan staff, and the comments in there are that the board is failing to hold administration to account. There's concerns that the board is a rubber stamp. The comment was made at the meeting that they said there aren't as many people in attendance at this as there have been in the past because so many people are losing faith that their voices are going to be heard. They didn't even think it's worth their time to attend. And so, and the teachers, both the elementary level and at the Logan schools, really very clearly talked about they don't feel their voices are heard. And that's why I think allowing these linkage notes, which I'll go through just briefly in just a moment, to be part of just a consent agenda continues to have their voice not heard. And I feel uncomfortable doing that.
So we do have each year, the superintendent and the associate superintendent create like an action item type report where they've pulled through all of the meeting minutes, identified common threads, and then prepared both using research and current practices a step forward for how to address those common threads. So this is something that is part of the full cycle of the linkage process.
The notes in the linkage are created by a staff person who reports to the superintendent, who then will give us a report. So why is the board going through this? Why wouldn't just staff go to these? I mean, there's a reason the board's sitting down and talking to staff directly to hear what they have to say. And I think if we simply sit back and allow administration to synthesize it and give us their version of it, I think we're missing a vital piece of this process.
So we have the notes written almost verbatim.
They're lengthy.
Anonymized.
She wrote a lot.
Yeah, and I guess I want to push back on the idea that they are like not accurately reflecting. I mean, it's clear to look at these linkage notes. What you are saying is what was expressed. I'm not sure if you are recommending a different way of going forward with doing linkages and taking meeting minutes.
No, I don't think so. I think that that's fair, but the point of board members attending, if we're simply going to rely on the notes, and why are board members making the effort of attending?
Well, I think it's both, isn't it? I mean, the value is in us attending, having our perspective, and also having education professionals in the administration of the districts do the work of combing through and matching our perceptions from the moment against what's presented to us. So I think the check is having us there and having us able to interact with the administration through that mechanism.
So as I understand it, administration they supervise staff, like that's their job, and they have all kinds of communication channels to communicate with staff and address all that. The board has linkages as a way to communicate with the public about our policies, are our priorities that we've set, are those still right? And if we go to these linkages and then we allow the results of these linkages to be synthesized by staff and brought back to us, I think we're missing that piece. Staff has their job, administration has their job with staff. The board has a different job with linkages. And that's what I'm trying to point out, is just to address a few things that I think were really important to hear. Staff are very committed. The staff we have in our buildings are very committed staff, very good staff, but there's a very clear message: they don't feel supported by administration. Those are messages that are more general. They didn't say so-and-so did something bad, but clearly there's a very clear message that I haven't heard in the 17 years I was on the board from 2001 to 2018 that I'm hearing now. And so
So thank
that's
you
the
for
reason.
emphasizing that. I think board members have the opportunity to attend all the linkages. We absolutely want to have everybody show up every time. We often can't. I take paid time off, which is a limited quantity that I get each year to go, right? When we can't come, we take notes so we can all be aware of the comments that are shared at these meetings. If you have proposals for how to do this differently, we can have a workshop separately from this meeting.
So why would we be allowed to take these off of the agenda if discussion really isn't allowed then?
Well, we're
This
not
is a
necessarily discussing, I guess, addressing each little thing identified in a linkage. This is just approving that the minutes were taken, and here they are.
I would say maybe one of the things, the way I think about it sometimes, is that this is a way for staff and faculty on our campuses to speak about their concerns, not to their direct supervisors and administrators, but to us, because in a way that becomes anonymized here, and then it goes through an anonymizing process. Does that make sense? I mean, we do that sometimes in like teacher evaluation. You have somebody else come in and listen to what students say so that they can speak freely without worrying that their direct admin or upper admin are gonna feel some kind of way about it. So I think that's one of the reasons that we attend, but I agree there might be other.
I mean, we've also heard in our workshops with Randy and Linda that they recommend we do not meet with staff. We don't want to change that. We see value, and staff have expressed repeatedly in these meetings that there's value. So while I understand your frustration, it's hard to hear a lot of operational comments that we don't directly address. It's important for us to know them as we work through approving, having that context to even approve these monitoring reports. All right, so just being mindful of time, Ms. Supla, will you send me an email if you have some recommendations for how to do the linkages differently?
Thank you.
So we have to approve each item separately now. So I'll need a motion and a second for the November 6th all elementary school staff linkage notes.
So move.
Second.
Okay, with a motion by, is that Ms. Sukla? And a second by Mr. Korberg. We'll approve that. Now we need to do a vote on that because it's pulled out of the consent agenda, correct? Okay, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, so the second one we pulled out was the November 8th Logan High School staff linkage notes.
I'll move to approve the November 8th Logan High School staff linkage notes.
Second. All right, with a motion by Dr. Sprague and a second by Ms. Berkedal, we'll do a vote on that. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, so we have a couple items to vote on tonight in our matters reserved for board action. The first one is the second and final reading of the changes to result policy R3 involved citizenship.
I'll make a motion to grant the second and final reading for policy approval to results R3 involve citizenship.
Second.
Okay, with a motion by Mr. Korberg and a second by Dr. Sprague. Since this is the second reading, we'll go ahead and do a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Our second matter reserved for board action tonight is results monitoring report R3 involves citizenship. So if
I'll make a motion to approve the recommended changes for results R3 involve citizenship monitoring report.
A second.
Okay, so we've got a motion by Mr. Korberg and a second by Dr. Garcia. We can pause if the discussion is needed before we do a vote. These are indicators that will be in the next round of the R3 monitoring cycle, and they are adjusted to reflect, I believe, the changed language that we just approved in that R3 policy on environmental stewardship.
Our past practice was to collect an inventory of experiences that students had around practicing good environmental stewardship. With the move to demonstrate an understanding, we're seeking to identify curriculum-based measures within our science curriculum that we can capture to show students achievement and progress over time.
Not hearing a lot of discussion, so we'll vote on that one. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, motion carries. Our last item is Operational Expectation Monitoring Report, OE5, Financial Planning.
In regard to the monitoring report for policy OE5, financial planning, in respect to the provisions of policy SR5, superintendent accountability, the Board of Education concludes that the superintendent and district are in compliance.
Second. So with a motion by Mr. Korberg and a second by Ms. Berkadal. Reminder, we had a presentation of this monitoring report last time. This is our opportunity to vote. I can pause if there are additional comments or questions before we do a vote. Hearing no comments. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
All right, so we will move on to our information items. Okay, so we just now voted on the monitoring report for OE5 that we received. The report for last time, this information item looks at if the administration wants to make any changes to indicators or superintendent's interpretation of the policy. It looks like the administration does not have any recommended changes. This is an opportunity for board members to discuss if there are no recommendations.
For the third time, I'd like to ask that we use, I was told when I asked for a report several months ago on a monthly level, how much of our reserve account is being used for cash flow. I was told that I had to ask for it in this report. So this is my opportunity to ask for that, but now it's under an information item, so I don't suppose I can even make a motion to ask for that.
So it's not a specific motion, so we can't necessarily trying to think about how the recommended lines are between the things. So the board can express an interest in seeing certain kinds of data presented, right? But it would be up to the administration to choose the evidence to prove that the policies are being met.
Speak up, please.
So the board can discuss what kind of information we might like to see, but it is up to the administration to choose the evidence that best shows that they've met the policy. So you've expressed a couple of times that you'd like to see a specific kind of report.
I have expressed that. I also know that according to our governance rules, that I can't just ask that myself, that we have to have a majority of the board. So at some point, I'd like the opportunity to bring forward, at least for a vote, or make a motion to have the board vote up or down, whether the majority of the board would like to see that report or not. But I'm struggling with knowing when and how to make that.
Is the report different from information that we receive already? It's new
Yes.
information?
Yes, I mean,
It's not
I
just
looked at
presented differently?
the cash flow, or the fund balance report from the last time, and again, it's, the point that I'm trying to make is that we have a pretty large, we have 20 million-ish in reserve that we use for cash flow. And when we have conversations with the public about referendums for capital or operation, that gets brought up, that you're sitting on all that money. And the point is that a good amount of that money is needed on a regular basis to pay our bills, because we don't get our tax money until well into the year, and we don't get a lot of our reimbursements from the state till the end of the school year. And so it would be a useful tool to show the public that while we have that cash, we need to use that to keep our doors open and to not have to pay interest by borrowing money, which a lot of school districts have to do. And so it'd be it's not just because I'm crazy about a report like that. I think it's a really helpful report to create transparency with the public.
Ms. Sprang and I have discussed how to best add that to our monthly financial reports. There's a cash flow graph in there, but it's not relative to kind of our standing fund balance. And so we've discussed how to make that change as we move forward. And if it's the general sentiment of the board to have something like this as a part of the monitoring report, we're always listening so that when we present any possible changes, we meet the board's will so that it can be approved.
So I started doing that, and we keep track of that as far as, I just didn't know where to put it. So when we anticipate a 32% fund balance at the end of the fiscal year based on our budget, right now we are at only 16%. We are required at the end of the year to have an unassigned fund balance of 15 to 20%. So as you can see, at this time of year when we do not have very good cash flow, as you can see by our charts, that our expenditures well exceed our revenues at this time of year, that would be something that I could certainly add to the financial report on a monthly basis.
That'd be awesome.
Very
Again,
simple.
You pick, I mean, just pick the end, the last day of the month, because it changes every single day. But I think if you could show it the last day of the month or first day of the month, whatever's most convenient, and I think that's a helpful tool to show the public why that reserve is so vital for our district to have.
And our financial information is based on the prior month. So this was based on October that you received today. We do go over those financials on a quarterly basis. So in January, we will go over the quarter from that ends December 31st. But I certainly could attach it on to the monthly so you can see that percent, how it changes over the course of the year.
Thank you.
All right, so I'm hearing we don't need to do a separate vote because it sounds like the administration has taken notes each time it's been brought up, and they've been working to find a way to fold that in. So we will move on to our second information item of the night, which is to formally receive the Facility Advisory Committee report and recommendations.
We have a few members of our Facility Advisory Committee here, and if they wanted to come forward and talk about the process at all and maybe the summary recommendations. The intent is mostly to have a warm handoff with the report to the board and to thank the committee for their very diligent work in this process. The folks that are here, if they want to come up, are Steve O'Malley, Carl Green, and Michelle Powell. They're certainly not, and Nell Saunders-Scott. Thank you so much for being here. If any of you wish to come up and discuss process or general results, I greatly thank you for doing so.
Quick question, is this a time for questions?
So this isn't necessarily intended to grill the committee members who have come to hand off the report. We'll have time as a board to process this and discuss. So we would love to hear your thoughts on the process and kind of how you came to this decision, and then we obviously thank you for all
that. Thank you. Thanks for giving me the time to address the board. Obviously, this was a difficult committee to be on. Not easy to be a popular person when you're on the Facility Advisory Committee because you're making bad decisions that don't have, that are always going to impact somebody. I'm really just wanted to speak because I thought I could answer any questions, that you guys might have of our perceptions of the process. In my mind, I thought the process was well carried out. I think there was perceptions that we were starting, or the school district was starting with the end in mind, which is that we're going to close schools. From my career, and I've addressed this board significant number of times in the past decade or so about the impact that our community is having with regards to our population being relatively stagnant and how this growth of the city is impacting the growth of the school district. So for me, I guess I understood that message of why this was necessary. again, the whole which school though was where the devil came from the details, and I thought that as we asked more questions and more questions, it seemed to me that there wasn't a sort of a perceived, well, these are the schools that are going to be closing, that it was fluctuating depending on what we were seeing. So my impression really was that we didn't start with the end in mind, that we did know that there was schools that would need to be closed because of our population deficits that we're seeing, but which schools those were, we didn't start with, with the idea that it's going to be select few or whatnot. I would just open it up and just ask you guys if you have questions for me, because I sat through the meetings, and so I can try to answer with my perceptions as much as I can.
Yeah. Questions from the board?
On the committee and for your work on it. If you, having been through it, are there areas that you think you all would have done differently or that you missed that could be opportunities of exploration for the board? And also, in addition to that, what recommendations would you have for the board for our exploration process?
I think the idea of the possibility of closing a school and rebuilding kind of got intertwined with the ideas of closing schools. And I think that actually became a difficult decision, because there was so much that we wouldn't have control over. And I think that's why we pulled that part out. I do think that that's always a opportunity, if you're going to be closing something, could you think about rebuilding? But to flesh that out better with specific costs on what that would be as a true option, I think that maybe would be one thing I would have changed, because there was just too much unknown with it. And for me, I couldn't support trying to do something that we had no idea what we would potentially be able to do without actually going to a referendum.
Yeah, that is kind of the big question, right? And I think just in terms of the board thinking long-term and all of the decisions that we make when it's, affecting facilities, we have to be mindful of the long-term needs and where the community's support within that would fall, and different decisions that are made. If it relies on a referendum, we have to kind of balance where we think support would lie, and it's tough to predict. So.
I don't mean to monopolize the microphone. I think there's other people from the board too. So.
Well, thank you so much.
Having attended 5 of the 8 meetings, the members of the committee worked very hard. This isn't your area of expertise per se. You worked very hard with the information that was given to you. People were very committed to the process. It was a very difficult position to be in, because we put our name in a ballot. Like, if people in the community don't like us, like, we chose that for ourselves. You volunteered for a committee, and so to be put in a position where you have to make a difficult decision, I respect everyone on the committee for having worked so hard on this process. I will say about the report, I think there have to be some edits to improve the report before it could be accepted. The page numbers from the table of contents is wrong. It's off by a page, and it references on page 19 an attachment G, which I did not see attached. So just a couple of housekeeping things.
Thank you for those notes. Yeah, I just want to reiterate the gratitude that we feel for all the committee members who took part from beginning to end, and those who stepped back for various reasons. Like, we acknowledge that this was both extremely time consuming. You gave 8 months of your life to do this work. Incredibly complicated and intellectual and emotional at the same time. So it's hard to express with words how grateful I am for the time that you have all given to this, but please accept my gratitude.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
I appreciate those words. My name's Steve O'Malley. Some of you know me. I'm a has-been. I was the county administrator here for 20 years and have had the privilege of not just serving on this committee and learning so much, but my heart goes out to you to try to figure out how you're going to make these decisions, because you're unpaid elected people that have to wrestle with these issues, and a paid staff that I have a huge amount of respect for. I've worked with 3 superintendents, Jerry Kember and Randy Nelson and Aaron Engel. I knew Dick Swans before he passed away, and we talked about many of these issues. These last 20 years of declining enrollment really puts you in a no-win position. So I don't want to get into which schools we talked about. On any given night, I could change what my weigh-in was. I won't tell you what I said on my vote. But I don't think our public has a true understanding of what that declining enrollment is doing and what position that's putting you in as decision makers. That was clear in the referendum that we had that did not pass. That's true tonight when you hear from impassioned parents and teachers. The level of complexity of your jobs just boggles my mind. I thought I had a complex job managing a county budget, managing $200 million and 150 to 200 different revenue items. But between what you folks do, teachers, parents, everybody wanting to be involved in the decisions, and then the very real details that are in your report. I'm not going to go into those details, but the millions of dollars that you have to make decisions about, not just capital, but operational savings. And I don't know that got across in what we presented, but the operational savings of consolidating and reducing 2 elementary schools is huge. $2.5 to $3 million in operational savings, whichever schools you pick. And we also knew that we were making recommendations. We don't have to make decisions. And so that was a bit of luxury as well. Probably the last thing I just would urge the board and administration to do is try to figure out how to communicate more to the public about this enrollment challenge. This isn't the only school district seeing that. Our county grows at less than 1% a year. When Carl and I, we were both county employees at the time, did the challenging trends report. Some of you may want to look that up. It's 20 years old. But when we started this discussion with the county and the city and the school district, we thought most of our problem was suburban sprawl. Was people moving to Holman, people moving to Onalaska, people moving to and choosing West Salem because of the deterioration of our neighborhoods. Well, that's one part of it. And they passed a whole lot of referendums to build a whole lot of new buildings while we were closing schools here and trying to figure out those kinds of things. And I don't think our public understands that completely. And that's not a judgment on the public. That's not saying I'm smarter than that. That's just we were wrestling with those issues. And I think, as you'll see in some of the charts, I think we stabilized it for a little bit, but now it's demographics. If you want to look for more resources about what's happening demographically, Wisconsin Counties Association and Future Analytics talks about our declining economics, old baby boomers like me retiring, we're not having more kids. This is not the only school district wrestling with that, and I don't know that, again, our public fully understands that, and that doesn't make it any easier when you stand there in front of a school and say, that's the one we're going to vote to close. I mean, I heard the people talking about this. I know people in all these communities. So I just, since I was invited to come tonight, good luck. I support that you have to make some very tough decisions. I don't know if the schools that we recommended in our report are the right ones. I don't know if you can come up with a win solution like you did on the north side several years ago when you closed 2 schools and built a brand new one. I didn't recall the controversy at that time, but people were pretty excited. I got to go to that dedication. That was pretty neat. Now I live on the north side, so I can see what that means to people. I hope you can come up with a solution that can satisfy more. But if I run some of the numbers, and I'm no great with this, but of the trend lines that are there, this isn't the last time you're going to have to make this kind of decision. Over the next decade, you're going to need to keep revisiting this, and it will probably be different people sitting in your chairs. And how you communicate that to the public, I think, is your greatest challenge. How do you monitor that? But I have nothing but respect for the school system. You've offered so much choice. You've offered so much great programming. I think it's retained, as you've heard, people wanting to come to the school district even if they don't live in town. But I think we're at the end of being able to do much more to change that trend. And now you're having to deal with where you're going to come up with the money to be able to not just maintain buildings, but to consolidate and be more efficient in your operating costs. And I wish we had we had so much on our plate to try to do, to talk about elementary schools, to talk about boundaries, and even to get to the secondary schools, and we didn't have much time there. So again, you gave us a lot to do. I hope we accomplished at least a sliver of what you wanted us to do. The last thing I want to say is that the people that served on that committee, people were doing homework, people were taking time. We didn't always agree on everything, but I have a huge amount of respect for the people that served with me, so thank you.
Thank you so much.
If there are any questions, I'll take any, but I just wanted to make those statements.
Can I say thank you for acknowledging the complexity of it? I went on the tour of all the buildings, so I got to hear a lot of the questions that people on the committee were asking, and they were so thoughtful. And it was like minute to minute, like, but what about this? But what about this? It's just a really challenging situation. And I feel like when I hear people come to speak with so much passion, I'm so grateful for how much our parents and our faculty love our schools. I love that. I love to see that. But I also, when I hear calls for creative solutions, my experience with creative solutions is that they're usually on the backs of teachers, right? To like travel from one campus to another to teach Spanish at one school and then another school, or school nurses that are at one school for 2 days and another school for 2 days. That's kind of how we're solving that problem right now, is that we're splitting faculty and staff and they're traveling all over, which isn't a great long-term plan. So anyway.
And I don't think I completed one of my thoughts was in looking at the trend line over the next decade, you're going to be sitting in situations where many of your buildings are going to be well under 50% capacity.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you answer that and deal with it because of the way we as a community have decided that we didn't want to have a single high school.
Right.
Now what does that mean? And so anyway, it's not very optimistic. We tried to do as much as we could when I was at the county to try to help reverse that.
Yeah.
But I think the demographics are just there, and there are so many school districts in our position. I think it was Wauwatosa just voted to close a couple of elementary schools. Other school districts are wrestling with this exact same issue. And our demographics in Wisconsin aren't growing, so.
And the places that aren't closing are the ones that don't have as many buildings. They don't have to.
Can I ask a quick question? With your experience as county administrator and in working with Andrea Train, our city planner, on the committee, was there discussion at the committee regarding the plan to add, 7,000 housing units to our community, and what impact that would have on enrollment?
But there is a sliver, a sentence put in there that urges the school district to continue to explore ways of trying to reverse the trend. I think we've been doing that through 3 administrations, 3 superintendents, working closely with our mayors and county administration. I know the current administrator is still open to that. The problem is we're landlocked. There's not a lot of places, and many people with young kids will make a different decision to live somewhere else so they have their little acre. I'll be sarcastic, but have their house and 3-car garage and all the rest of that. We don't have a lot of lots like that. And so the redevelopment that we've done with La Crosse Promise and so many other things that I'm proud to be a part of, has made a dent. But look at the graphs in your charts. It's not reversing much. The city can only do so much, and most of the demand for housing is not for young families. A lot of what's happening across from City Hall there at the former oil site. I can't remember the name of it right now.
River Point District.
But again, a lot of that's going to be aging baby boomers, people with that are empty nesters. We're not attracting families the way, but we don't grow that fast. La Crosse County grows at less than 1% a year. So even if we compete with Holman or Onalaska or West Salem, there's not that many new young families to attract. And that's the problem, is that we are in a position that in hindsight we're overbuilt, but who would have known this trend over 30 or 40 years? Nobody was perfect. So anyway, thanks for letting me serve.
Thank you so much.
Hello, I am Michelle Powell, and I have 2 kiddos that attend our public schools here, and I'm a proud graduate of the School District of La Crosse. When I was 7 years old, that was when Northwoods and Southern Bluffs were both built. So about 30 years ago, the trend was that we were going to increase enrollment and we were going to continue to expand. Well, here we are 30 years later, and that didn't happen. So we're talking about closing 2 elementary schools. And when I think about all of the folks that come to speak to the board about saving a school or wanting to make sure that their school is saved, I think about the fiscal responsibility needed in order to really provide the programs and the best quality teachers and all of those pieces for our current students. I believe wholeheartedly as an educator myself that the heartbeat of the school is truly the staff, the students, the community that is brought to the brick and mortar buildings. When we are on the advisory committee, it was to look at the physical brick and mortar and what's most fiscally responsible in the short term and long term goals for the School District of La Crosse.
Thank you, Ms. Powell.
Thank you.
Nell says no. Okay. So I think I already expressed my gratitude once. I think I will express it again. And I want to recognize that the members who served on the committee were parents, Northsiders, Southsiders. We had elected officials. We had leaders of community organizations and nonprofits, small business owners, and people who have elected to freely give their time to help us make this, frankly, super awful decision, right? And so thank you to those who came out to speak on behalf of the group tonight. And for any community members listening or committee members listening, thank you to the rest of the folks on the committee who weren't able to attend tonight, but who did so much work for the district. Thank you. All right, so unless there are other comments from board members, we'll move on to announcements. And the first announcements we have tonight, I'll turn to our student representatives.
Let me move this a little closer. Well, a bit of good news, partially relating to some of our talks last meeting about report cards and all of that. Logan has received one of the best report cards now that we have begun Q2 since the establishment of the report card system. So that's quite exciting. Specifically, we are exceeding expectations in growth. So it is a huge accomplishment for Logan. As well, a few announcements for our fall sports. The Logan Adapted Sports League soccer team just won conference and were crowned champions for their 4th consecutive year. So that's quite big as well. As well, freshman girls cross-country runner has qualified for state for the first time in 30 years.
Wow.
Yep. As well, 2 individuals and 2 relays in girls swimming qualified for state. And winter sports have now started, with girls basketball having their first game tomorrow and boys basketball the following day. Another important event that occurred was November 10th. We held an all-school assembly. Firstly, to acknowledge academics and co-curriculars within the fall sports. Both girls volleyball and boys football received all academic teams, so that's quite a big accomplishment. having every student in those teams being all academic. As well, the second part of that meeting was, of course, to acknowledge Veterans Day and celebrate the staff and family members who served.
Thank you.
And then from Central, I believe it was last week, we held the pre-ACT for all underclassmen. And then after that, students were given the chance to have some fun activities. So there was like games and movies. And then also, while the test was going on, seniors were also offered the chance to come in and meet with teachers about any makeup work or anything regarding schoolwork. And then there was also some workshops held on FAFSA, filling out college applications, as well as filling out job applications and going through like mock interviews. So anyone was able to attend that. Our student senate has also, they just put on a speak with a student senator at lunch. So there was a table set up with student senators from 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, and anyone was able to approach them about any changes or improvements that they wanted to be made to the school. I've not heard back from anyone yet, but I'm kind of in communication on with them to see if there's anything that I can bring to you guys for improvement. And then we have a food pantry at Central also that used to be named La Cocina, and I believe it has now been changed to Central Cares, and they just put on last Thursday and Friday their turkey dinner giveaway, so families were able to come and pick up Thanksgiving meals that included a turkey and some of the ingredients to make side dishes as well, and then they were also able to browse through the food pantry and any hygiene products, and were able to take any home with them as well. I didn't hear how well it went, but I know I volunteered last year with that, and it was a really big success. A lot of families enjoy being able to come pick up their dinners. Also, I am part of the Health Science Academy, and recently we made a trip to Spence Elementary to teach fifth graders CPR. One of the teachers, Jocelyn Buxton, actually applied for a grant to obtain CPR supplies to help teach students basic life support. And part of that also included the Health Science Academy coming in and working with those students to kind of teach them the basics of that. But other than that, things have been going great. So.
Wonderful. Thank you, Lily and Mason. Great. Ms. Burkadal, do you have any updates tonight?
Sure do. The Crosse Public Education Foundation would like to offer gratitude for staff and board members who chose to support random acts of kindness, grants, etc. through the Crosse Public Education Fund. Even though the staff campaign is over, you can still choose to support the Crosse Public Education Foundation through payroll deductions. If any board members want to be present when they deliver grant checks in early December, please let Nell know.
All right. The only announcement is more of just a repeat from last time. So our linkages are ongoing. There was one board member in attendance at the Logan High School linkage. We want 3. So if I'm considering at this point, if we have nobody signed up or one person signed up, potentially rescheduling. Just a reminder that just a few months ago, we all had a lot of talk about wanting to engage our community, and now is the time to do it. So please find some days that work and do your best to make it out. Our next one is November 27th, is that correct? After the holidays, right? So that sounds about right in my mind. The December 12th linkage has no board members signed up. I am unable to attend because I've committed the last of my yearly PTO to all the other linkages that I've signed up for, so please find some way to come. And that's what I've got today.
Planning on checking that one.
Cool. Dr. Engel.
Just FYI, November 23rd and 24th, the school board office or the board office will be closed for the holidays coming up. And facility advisory committee open comment sessions will be held November 27th virtually and November 29th here physically in person. So folks can sign up by reaching out to Ms. Steigerwald at the district office. They will be held from 6 to 9 and following the board's public comment rules.
All right, so the board debriefing, actually, sorry, we'll do agenda planning first, and then we'll go to board debriefing.
I'll make a motion to approve the December 4th, 2023 Board of Education agenda with any additions or corrections.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, with a motion by Mr. Korberg and a second by Dr. Garcia, we'll do a vote on this. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Right, so that passes, and now we can move on to a very brief board debriefing. And it's my turn tonight, and the biggest thing I want to say is I think we need to be very careful about staying on task. There is absolutely so much to talk about, but we have a lot of work ahead of us. Got a long workshop tonight, a closed session. The next several meetings will be a similar pattern, so we need to be mindful of the agenda that we have approved and working to stick to that as best we can. I think it went really well. Our 4K showcase was beautiful and amazing. Great show, great turnout from lots of different community members and staff. And that's what I have. Are there any other board members who have anything to say in the board debriefing? Alrighty. So we will adjourn to our workshop next. I believe that is that. If there are no objections to adjourning, we'll adjourn and move right into a workshop after. Do we need a 5-minute break? Drink of water. We'll take a 5-minute break.